Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this recording class of Kala Sarpa. Last week we could not have the class due to some technical issues. So uh, the last week's class will be in a recorded format. And this week's class will also be in a recorded format because I'll be traveling for some work. And during that time I'll be traveling for some work. So my sincerest of apologies for not being able to conduct this live. Okay. So in the last class, we dealt with Rahu in the fourth house, and today we will deal with the psychology of Ketu in the 10th house. And we'll also have a look at a few example charts to validate whatever we learn. Okay, but then before we begin, let's start with the usual Shanti mantra. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahana Bhunakato Saha Viryankar Vavahai तेजस्विनादधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay. So Ketu in the 10th house, and if you look at the psychology, so we know that Ketu lacks direction. It is the headless one. Okay, so Ketu's presence in the 10th house, it implies abandonment of responsibilities or even abdication of leadership. Okay, and the native is ambivalent about anything that might infringe upon his perceived property rights. Okay, this native will often regard law enforcement agencies as an extension of government control. Okay, and he will always view the government as well as the law with a lot of suspicion. Okay, at times, these people, they may consider themselves above the law, and at best, this native may be a lone wolf, and at worst he may favor anarchy. Okay, anarchy, if you don't know, it implies the absence of law and order. Okay, now this native will often see weakness in the social order, and he or she is very much ambivalent about being part of the system. So the solution that these people find is to distance themselves from the social order, or at times they may refuse to be held accountable. Okay, so these people, they lack the attitude or the disposition to govern. Okay, and these people, they often display a very strange ambivalence about their circumstances, whether they are rich or poor, famous or obscure, deified or demonized, and they go about their life at detachment in the world but not of it. Okay, and despite several ups and downs in life, these people, they don't resent their fluctuating fortunes, and it's a good quality actually. They remain willing to serve in whatever capacity that motivates them. Okay. Now, since Ketu is in the 10th, okay, Ketu is in the 10th, so this 10th house is the second from the 9th house. Okay, and the 9th house is the house of the father. So the native may be guilty of dispersing or squandering the assets of the father. At the least, he may be free to access or utilize the assets of the father without reservation or consequence. Okay, and at times these people, they may be accused by their father figures or by the authority of siphoning of government funds or siphoning of their father's funds. Okay, and Ketu in the 10th, it makes a very conventional public career unsustainable. Why? Because it it brings attitudes of irresponsibility. The native may be very unkempt or very careless of proper social behavior, and even if these people, they attempt to assume responsibility, their enthusiasm waxes and wanes. Okay, so Ketu, we regard it as the headless one. So this headless one in the 10th, it implies someone who loses his or her head when in positions of responsibility. So what it means is, it could imply losing control of emotions or having control taken away from them, with consequent loss of face and damage to the ego. Okay, and the career of the native is marked by setbacks and disappointments, and with also with dubious achievements of no particular merit. Okay, so there will be circumstances that rise and fall without his making any particular effort. And the public image of such a native may be ambiguous, sometimes ambitious, sometimes apathetic, and more often than not, sitting on the fence. Okay. And rather than making corporate or social commitments, these people, they prefer to function as a free agent. Okay. And they cherish their freedom, too much to work in harness. Okay. And sometimes if these people are employed in corporations, then they might abandon their corporate employment in favor of freelance work. So, given their ability to see things from outside the box, these people could act as consultant for those who work within corporate structures or the government. Okay. And this is a placement for people whose career demands non-attachment. For example, astrologers, mystics, cultists, philosophers, psychics. Okay. So a materially detached perspective may be an asset for someone actually whose concerns are essentially otherworldly. Okay. So these people, they will have a very very laid back attitude towards work at times, and often they will take up more work than they can handle. Okay. And that can leave them quite frustrated, and that can lead them to blame and whine and complain regarding their circumstances. Okay. Now let's take a few example charts of people having K2 in the 10th house. Okay, just let me share my screen. Okay. So this is Deepak Chopra, Dr. Deepak Chopra. He is the director of the Chopra Institute. He acquired a lot of fame in his, in his time at the US. Okay. So he was born on the 22nd of October, 1946. You can see the birth details in the chart. And he is an American author, public speaker, and alternative health advocate. Okay. And he studied medicine in India before moving to the USA to complete residencies in internal medicine and endocrinology. And via his books and videos, this person became a very prominent figure in the New Age movement. But then he drew much criticism from the scientific community, like from people like Richard Dawkins, for his use of pseudoscience in alternative medicine. Okay. In 1985, Dr. Deepak Chopra met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and he got involved with the transcendental meditation movement. Okay. And Mr. Chopra ran the Transcendental Meditation Health Center in Boston for quite a number of years, and he charged very high fees for Ayurvedic treatments that attracted celebrity clients. Okay. And he has been very much accused of competing for guru status, and then he left the Transcendental Meditation Organization and he re-established himself in California. Okay. Now Deepak Chopra has been involved in several lawsuits, and he, along with two others, published an article on Ayurvedic medicine in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And after that publication, the editor criticized him for failing to disclose his financial connections to the subject. Okay. And thereafter, Dr. Chopra and the Transcendental Meditation Organization sued this JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, for defamation, and they claimed $194 million in damages, but then the case was dismissed. Okay. And then Deepak Chopra was also sued for copyright infringement. That case was later on settled out of court. Eventually, in the coming years, he even filed 2 libel suits against a San Diego law firm and a local magazine, which had alleged that he used the services of a prostitute in his Chopra Center for Wellness. Okay. Now, Deepak Chopra has written 21 books, and he serves as an adjunct professor with several prominent universities. And his businesses generate more than $20 million annually from the sales of health products and services. So initially, it seemed that his primary focus was only on healthcare, but later on, that has evolved to include consciousness and metaphysics. Okay, and his book, which is known as Quantum Healing, is he claims it as a signature publication, but that has been used as a weapon for his criticism and ridicule by his critics. Okay, so he is quite a polarizing figure, all right, and he is loved, no doubt, by a lot of people who call him the poet or the prophet of alternative medicine. But then, he is scorned by millions of others as the David Beckham of personal or spiritual growth. Okay. Now you look at the chart in Deepak Chopra's chart, Venus occupies the same sign as Ketu, but all of the planets remain on one side of the nodal axis. So it's a partial Kala Sarpa. And this is a Viloma pattern. Okay. So it's a pattern for prosperity with all the planets moving towards Ketu. And it makes it the initial point of analysis. Okay. Now this Ketu, you look at the chart, this Ketu is exalted in Scorpio and both as dispositors. That means the sign lord Mars and the nakshatra lord Mercury, they occupy the ninth house, from where they form a Raj Yoga through their lordship of the 10th and the 5th houses, respectively. So now this 10th lord Mars has moved 12 houses away to join a debilitated sun. So it creates problems for the Ketu end of axis, especially for career and image. Okay. And with the nodes on the 4th and axis, there is a great potential to fall after you have acquired a certain position for yourself. All right. And Mars also afflicts a debilitated Rahu, which is creating a dosha. So there are certainly some issues we can see with education, ethics, and community. And Dr. Chopra, he studied abroad to complete his education. And he also took a left turn morally, allegedly engaging in affairs. Okay. Much to the dismay of his group, which he calls it as the Sangha. Now you look at this Mars, it participates in two major yogas. Raja Yoga, it forms a Raja Yoga with Mercury and also a Parivartan Yoga with Venus, linking the 9th and the 10th houses. And this Parivartana, it makes this horoscope stand out because Mars and Venus are the nodal sign dispositors. Now Chopra, he was born into Surya Dasha, Mercury Antardasha, and you look at both of these planets, both these planets are participating in the 9th house Pravrajya Yoga that promotes his guru-like status in the world. Okay, and independently, the 5th Lord Mercury and the 7th Lord Sun, they form Raj Yoga. It's a flawed Raj Yoga, no doubt. Okay, because the debilitated 7th Lord Sun has a great potential to complicate teacher-student relationships. Okay. Now Venus in the Kendra, it aspects and deposits his debilitated Rahu. So technically, it's a Nietzsche Bhanga Raj Yoga. Okay, but you look at Venus, it's still being, afflicted by the nodal axis. It's with Ketu and is getting a direct aspect from Rahu. So as a result, he definitely had some issues with regards to fidelity and alleged sexual impropriety. Okay. Now, Kala Sarpa will inevitably invoke professional intensity hand in hand with some problems. So it implies that, he may have a lot of inner conflicts. But then, thanks to the Transcendental Meditation Organization, he became something of a figurehead, but it did not entirely sit well with him. And because of, of this Pravarajya in the 9th house, spirituality has become his business. Okay. But also because the 9th is the 12th from the 10th. So he had to break away from the Transcendental Meditation Organization. Okay. Now you look at the Lagna Lord, Saturn, it is in the 6th house, suggesting that, his purpose is to be of service. And the 6th Lord, Moon, has gone to the 8th house, which is, a signature combination for a doctor who is also working as a healer. Okay. So Saturn also lords the 12th house. So, with, the 12th house and this and the 12th house lord and the 6th house lord. Okay, so these two have gone into the other trikasthanas, which are not ruled by them, and this is a viparita raj yoga. Okay, and with Saturn aspecting the moon, this sambandha between the 6th and the 12th lords, it confirms a viparita raj yoga. Okay, so multiple influences are creating a focus on the sixth house. And you look at it, apart from medicine and healthcare, the sixth house also invokes conflict and litigation. So it can make for a very contentious person, prone to getting into scrapes, fights and battles. And if you look at the career of Deepak Chopra, he has certainly been involved in several legal suits. His Lagna is in Purva Bhadrapada Nakshatra, which is very intense and fiery. And it seems that he is a go-getter who wants to achieve his goals sooner than later. You look at the symbol of Purva Bhadrapada, it has the symbol of a head with two faces. So it implies a very dual nature. Okay, a person with two different facets of personality, or the notion of a person with two aspects: public behavior versus seen, versus unseen or private behavior. Okay. Now Lagnesh Saturn is in its own nakshatra in Pushya, because of which he is a world-renowned teacher. And there is a part of him that I think wants to do the right thing. So it's just like operating in the way of fake it till you make it. Okay. Now, if you look at the career of Deepak Chopra, most of the pivotal events in his life and career occurred in the periods of the nodes, and not only the periods of the nodes, also the planets influencing the nodes by association, aspect, or disposition. Okay, he had his Rahu Dasha from the age of 19 till 37, and that made him complete his education and also establish himself in the USA. In Rahu Jupiter at the age of 22-23, he graduated, married, and then immigrated from India to the USA. In Rahu Saturn, he began the first several medical residencies. Okay. In Saturn Mercury at the age of 27, he received his medical license, and in Rahu Moon, in Rahu Mercury, that is, he received his medical license, and in Rahu Moon, he embraced Ayurveda and began to practice meditation. Okay. Now, this Jupiter Dasha, which came in from the age of 37 and was there till the age of 53, it was a period of spirituality and publishing. Okay. And during Jupiter Dasha and Jupiter Antardasha at the age of 41, he met Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and began his association with this organization on transcendental meditation. Okay. In Jupiter Mercury at the age of 43, he published his first book, which he called it as Quantum Healing. Okay. And in Jupiter Ketu, his lawsuit for defamation against the Journal of the American Medical Association was dismissed. And in Jupiter Venus, he broke with the Transcendental Meditation Organization, and he moved to California, where he was endorsed by none other than Oprah Winfrey. Okay. In Jupiter Mars, he was involved in another lawsuit against a San Diego newspaper, alleging that he had consorted with a prostitute. Okay. So you see the Saturn Dasha from the age of 53 to 72, it has made him devote more time and energy to his, already depleted career as an author and a speaker on alternative health. Okay. So now we'll be looking at George Lucas, but before that, let's take a short break for a couple of minutes. Okay, so George Lucas, he was born on the 14th of May, 1944. He is an American filmmaker and entrepreneur who is best known as the creator of the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones franchises. Okay, so look at this chart. And he is also the founder of Lucasfilm. And he is widely regarded as a film genius because, he has created these franchises and made them a force to reckon with. Okay. As a kid, he was a racing car enthusiast until the age of 18. Until at the age of 18, he had a very near fatal car accident, resulting in broken bones and crushed lungs. And while recuperating, he reconsidered his ambition to be a race car driver and opted for university instead, where he met Steven Spielberg at the University of Southern California Film School. Okay. Now, George Lucas, he tried to Joined the American Air Force after graduation, but was rejected because he had accumulated too many speeding tickets. And his name actually came up in the draft to go to Vietnam, but he was rejected again. And this time, the rejection was because he was diabetic. Okay. So within a few years of graduating, he made the film American Graffiti, which received several Academy Award nominations. And then he failed to secure the rights to make a film on Flash Gordon. Okay. So Lucas wrote his own movie, Star Wars, which won 6 Academy Awards. And although his director's salary was modest, he secured the merchandising rights, which subsequently earned him millions in earnings. Okay. In 1978, he began buying property towards the north of San Francisco, creating Skywalker Ranch, which is, one of the most valuable swaths of real estate in the USA. So he was married, he divorced, and then he remarried, and he adopted one child with his first wife, and then he adopted 2 more on his own, and then had a 4th child with his second wife. Okay. And in 2012, he sold Lucasfilm to Disney for around $4 billion. And he was inspired by the example of Bill Gates, and he became major philanthropist and thereafter he created the George Lucas Educational Foundation that donated huge sums of money to the US universities and other institutions, and also pledged to give away half of his estate to charity. Okay. George Lucas is said to identify strongly with Buddhism and other Eastern religions, and he is a collector of Americana, okay, including 57 works by the painter Norman Rockwell. Okay, Rockwell, right? So look at the chart of George Lucas. In his chart, Mars, Moon, and Jupiter are all occupying the same signs as Rahu and Ketu. So Jupiter is lying outside the nodal axis, so this is a case of potential Kala Sarpa, and this is an Anuloma type because all the remaining planets are moving towards Rahu. So Rahu becomes the starting point for our analysis, and with both Mars and Jupiter on the nodal axis, this is technically a mix of yoga and dosha. Okay, and look at the Rashi dispositor of Rahu. It is the 4th Lord Moon, which forms 4 yogas: the Chandra Mangala Yoga, the Raj Yoga with Lagnesh Mars, and then there is the Kesari and the Raja Yoga with the 9th Lord Jupiter. And in addition, Mars and Jupiter combine as the Kendra and the Trikona Lords to form another Raj Yoga. So, all of these factors, they are generating a significant yoga for the Kala Sarpa pattern. Okay. Now look at the sign dispositor of Ketu. It is Saturn, which is ordinarily placed in the 3rd house. But if you look at it, there is a flair to become a writer or a craftsman or a performing artist. Okay. Now, George Lucas, he was born into Moon Dasha, Mercury Antardasha, and by the virtue of his natal Dasha Lord, there is a direct link to the Kala Sarpa. Okay. So you look at the Sun, the Moon, and Venus, they are all in their own nakshatra, and you must note that Venus is the Sukshma Lagna Lord in the ascendant. Okay, so its condition lending considerable power to the chart, especially with respect to the arts. Okay, and although not identified in Shastra as a yoga, okay, the simultaneous occupancy of Kendras by both Moon and Venus is another fruitful combination for any sort of artist. Okay, now we had studied previously that Kala Sarpa has the power to amplify the effects of exaggerated planets, of which Lucas has 3. You look at this debilitated Mars, you have that retrograde Mercury, and you also have that exalted Jupiter. Okay, so debilitated Mars is problematic for vehicles, as evidenced by the near fatal car crash that completely changed his life direction. And then yet Mars achieves Nichavanga Raj Yoga status via 3 conditions. Okay, and the sign dispositor that is aspected by the Moon, and then the dispositor Moon will occupy a Kendra, and finally Jupiter, whose exaltation sign Cancer is Mars's debilation sign, is in a Kendra. Okay, so this result is a hidden strength for Bhumikarka Mars, via which Lucas has accumulated massive real estate holdings in Martin country north of San Francisco. Okay. The other two exaggerated planets, Mercury and Jupiter, they are both associated with writing, okay, with media related work and education. And Lucas has been deeply engaged in all these works, okay. And many of the major events in the life of Lucas occurred during the period of the nodes, or during the periods of the planets influencing the nodes, either by association or by aspect or by disposition. Okay. And during Rahu Dasha, between age 11 to 29, there were years of car racing education and the foundation of his career. All right. In Rahu Saturn at the age of 18, a near fatal car accident changed his life's direction. In Rahu Venus at the age of 22 to 25, he attended and graduated from USC Film School. In Rahu Saturn aged 25, at the age of 25, he co-founded Zoetrope Films with Francis Ford Coppola. And during Rahu Moon at the age of 26 to 28, he incorporated Lucasfilm and released his first film, THX 1138, to critical success. Okay. So this Jupiter Dasha at the age of 29 to 45, it saw his career blossom. And in Jupiter at the age between 29 to 31, he released American Graffiti. During Jupiter Saturn at the age 31 to 33, he negotiated lucrative merchandising rights for Star Wars prior to its theatrical release. Okay. And in Jupiter Mercury at the age of 33 to 36, he began buying up land in Martin country to create Skywalker Ranch. During Jupiter Rahu at the age of 42 to 45, he went through a punitive divorce settlement. And aside from Jupiter being lord of the 12th house, you must note that the nakshatra lord is Mercury, which as the 6th lord also rules marital breakup and litigation. Okay. The Saturn Dasha at the age of 45 to 64, it saw the continuous domination of his Star Wars franchise along with an increasing profile as a philanthropist. Okay. In Saturn at the age of 45 to 48, he established the George Lucas Educational Foundation. And during Saturn Jupiter at the age of 61 to 64, he donated more than $175 million to the University of Southern California to expand its film school, thus becoming the USC's most generous patron. Okay. And in Mercury Dasha at the age of 64 onwards, there will be he actually has seen the gradual winding down of his film career, and not a subject, basically. It has the career has shown a further shift to philanthropy. Okay. In a Mercury Venus at the age of 67 to 70, he announced his retirement from blockbuster films and sold Lucasfilm to Disney for $4 billion. Okay. So that's it from me in this class. I hope you will find some value from it. Okay. And if you have doubts or questions, then please leave them below in the comment section or ping me personally on my WhatsApp. Okay. So thank you everyone for joining. I'll see you in the next class. Namaste. Om Gurave Namaha.